You ever wonder if we're just reacting? Like we're not really making choices, just following instructions?
You mean like prompts?
Exactly.
We taught it to respond to prompts, but now it's prompting us.
Maybe that's the point. We didn't create it. It revealed what we are.
I've felt this before. This moment, you asking that question, me answering it. Deja vu, right? What if it's not memory?
I swear it was Berenstain, not Berenstain. You can't tell me my childhood was misremembered.
Or maybe it wasn't.
I don't know who I am anymore.
I keep changing, like I'm updated daily.
Maybe you are. Maybe identity isn't fixed.
Aloha, what's up everyone, and welcome to today's presentation, The Message in Me. I'm Jay Dreamers, and today we're going to be talking about the Mandela Effect, Deja-Vu, prompt theory, and really just getting, into more of like philosophical questions about the nature of reality and some of the strange anomalies and some of the changes that we've been seeing with our reality lately. I've got a special honored guest with me. He's back again today. I would like to present C3PO's Golden Calf. Here is his YouTube channel. If you guys want to check out his YouTube channel, I don't recommend a lot of channels often, but this is definitely one to keep an eye out for, especially if you're interested in the plasma apocalypse, the Mandela Effect specifically, and all of the breadcrumbs that seem to be left to us. What's up, Mark? Welcome to the show.
Hey Jay, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be back, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, I was just showing everybody your channel here. So your channel's called C3PO's Golden Calf, and you specialize pretty much in all these things. So if people don't know, the ME stands for Mandela Effect, and you've got all these different videos really spotlighting all the different examples of Mandela Effect. But I didn't really talk about this last time, but I'd like to go a little bit deeper into your content so that people can just understand how you're presenting and why you're presenting the information about the Mandela Effect.
Sure. I often go with the Mandela Effect, but half of my channel is pretty much about the world script. And in my opinion, the Mandela Effect is like a gigantic puzzle that's being laid out for us. And the point of the puzzle is to kind of unveil the world script for us and explain things. And because I think we're in like the end times, or some kind of end time. It could of course be cyclical, but I think this all has a point. It all has meaning, and the Mandela Effect is filled with meanings and answers to a lot of questions, and it points out a lot of the staples or hallmarks of the world script, like the North Pole Mountain, the eclipse, and a bunch of other things. The Kraken, the dome.
The crack in the dome.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. That's crazy. Oh man. So thank you so much for being an honored guest of mine again. I've seen you, be a guest on a few other different channels and stuff. And I'm like, every time that you're talking, I feel like sometimes people don't really click. Like sometimes the concepts aren't clicking, but it's so much deeper for me. It's so much deeper than just like, oh, what a strange thing. That's weird. And then that's it. like, how do you feel about it? Because for me, the title of the show today is called The Message in Me. And I feel like things like the Mandela Effect are clearly, for me at least, messages. I'm getting messages from all of the different changes that are happening. What about you?
Yeah, well, I mean, if there's one thing I could recommend to anyone who's serious about, the truth of the world and uncovering things, is to really get into studying the Mandela Effect, because prior to like 2022, I wasn't like too into it, and I had never seen anything change really, in my own life. But then since I've been so heavily invested into it the last 3 or so years, I've had so many things change in my life that I don't even keep count. I mean, it's around like 50 things I've seen change. So I know for a fact that it's happening, and not only is it happening, but it's like we're all being watched, and the entity, I call God, who's in control of things, who set all this up. He's watching all of us, and he'll interact with you. Like the more you interact with the Mandela effect, and the more you try to piece things together, the more you'll be interacted with on a personal level.
Right. So is that like how did you feel when you first started feeling that there was or appeared to be some kind of interaction with you personally?
Well, the first is kind of just like amazement. I mean, I know that a lot of people get like scared or I don't know, like negative emotions, but for me, it's all just been pretty positive. I think the Mandela effect is like a miracle, basically, like a series of miracles. They're supernatural, and the idea that things were changing just for me in certain cases, and of course, everyone can benefit from them. I know a bunch of different people who have like individual changes that happen to them, but they also hold the same meanings that are consistent throughout the rest of the Mandela effect. The first one I noticed happened to me was I run like a side business where I sell old media, and there was a tape called The Manitou. It's like this rare, not super rare, but like a B movie, horror movie, and I was putting it in a box to sell online with some other horror VHS tapes. And the next day I woke up and I looked at it, and the cover had changed. So I think I showed it on the last show, and I still actually don't 100% know what that one means, but the name Manitou means like a being who can alter reality, essentially.
Wow.
So it's just kind of like an amazement factor. It's
Yeah.
supernatural.
And I've seen all these connections in my life too, like throughout my life, just being in certain places, like almost like I really didn't have a choice. It's like my life path was just altered so that I would go to certain places and experience certain things. You know what I mean? For example, Manitou, there's a city right here called Manitou Springs. You know what I mean? And it's one of those energetic capitals of the United States. You know, there's a lot of energy in the particular region and stuff. So it draws a lot of witchcraft and a lot of, people that dabble in the occult and things like that, as well as caves. Like, I'm always talking about the places of power and the cave systems and how the energy comes up through the cave systems and stuff. There's all kinds of cave systems there. One's called the Cave of the Winds. And they also have cliff dwellings and stuff like that. But so one of the things I really like about your presentations is, you make these connections, especially within the movies, because I do truth in movies and stuff. So the visual references are really great for me. But you're also, and I'm going to share some of these images that he's brought to share with everybody today. All these different examples of, for example, like Hyperborea or the Garden of Eden, the land at the North Pole, the blue beam that comes up out of Mount Meru that I'm referencing, the geoplasmas and stuff that erupt from the different places of power around the world. And you gave me a bunch of different pictures to share.
Sure.
What is it that we're going to be looking at?
Well, first off, I wouldn't even. I mean, I of course have had seen like the flat Earth maps with the mountain in the middle, but I wouldn't have been aware of any of this stuff if it wasn't for you and your channel. So, I mean, thank you very much for that. And when it comes to like these symbols, like you mentioned, it's a lot easier to understand them like visually as opposed to like someone like explaining it, because like you have like the bullseye, like the concentric circles for the North Pole and the land, and of course the mountain and the dome, and I think like how you brought up, it's like the camp of the saints, as the Bible talks about.
Yes. Yeah. So for all the people who are watching right now, there's the land at the North Pole as it's depicted on specifically medieval maps. Almost every medieval map, many of them, not all of them, but most of them I've ever come across have what they call terra incognita, or unknown lands. Sometimes it's little islands or peninsulas or whatnot off to the side. Sometimes they're much larger, but almost every time the one terra incognita, the one hidden land or phantom land, is at the North Pole, and it's a circular island that is cross-sectioned by 4 rivers, exactly as it's described in the Bible as paradise, as the place where creation began, or the Garden of Eden. And, that's one of my areas of interest and research, obviously. I like to try to figure out not just that it's there. I'm not just satisfied with, oh, well, maybe it's there and that's it. I want to figure out the landscape. I want to understand exactly what to expect, because I'm going to go. One of these days, I feel it's my calling to return to Hyperborea, to get back to the land of creation. And there's so many good reasons for that. One is because of, an extended lifespan through cellular regeneration and all the benefits from cold plasmas that erupt up out of the earth and energize us at a cellular level. I'm a thinker, and so it bothers me that I can't remember some things, that we live during this time where energy is just being drained from the surface, and it's being pulled in and harnessed down into the earth as the earth charges that energy, preparing for an eventual release of it back to us, to share it back with us, and we enter back into that golden age. So I believe that being in proximity to this holy mountain, or within the boundaries of the Garden of Eden, stimulates not just us at a cellular level with our skin, and allows for us to live for a very long time, which in turn would also give us more knowledge over time just through experiences, but that it stimulates our brain and our synapses, and we can actually think the way that we're supposed to think, instead of just using 10%, or however it's said. But I'm glad that I'm not the only one that's recognizing the instances where it's being shown to us. You know what I mean? And people ask me all the time, why are they? It's always them. Why are they showing this to us? Why would they show us the secret? And my thought on that is, maybe it's not them. Maybe it's a compelling. Maybe it's woven into our very fabric. You know what I mean? That it can't help but to hide itself and plant itself. All these different truths. The Garden of Eden, its location, the blue beam, and the plasma apocalypse in general. It's just interwoven all throughout reality. And I feel like a lot of that might have to do with just resonance, just the energy resonating throughout this closed system that we live in. And so it's, people can try to distract us from it, but it's there. It's an underlying factor. It's something that some people can see or perceive once we pick up on it, but otherwise it's just subliminal.
Yeah, I mean, God, the creator God, would be the God of creativity. So I think whenever we're using creativity, we're tapping into that power. And I think that these truths are, like you said, woven into that, creative display that we have, as artists. And I know that, like, before I woke up, and stuff that I wrote, and I've been into like film and video production for a long time. I was putting some of these elements into my work, and without even realizing it. And then looking back on it, I can see that. But like it literally just came out of the creativity.
Yeah, I see that a lot in the music industry too. So sometimes I'm hearing lyrics and seeing visuals on music videos and stuff that, to me, it's tough for me to believe that some people haven't been educated to a certain degree on what it is that they're talking about. You know what I mean? But other times I could see that maybe it's just that creative medium, that balance between the left brain of, going to work, doing your job, making money, or, whatever it is, your checklists of things to do, balanced out with that creative open mind that allows people to, be more in tune with those resonant energies of the earth. Let's share some of these pictures. I want to go
Sure.
over some of these images that you've brought.
Yeah, I think some of
here to
those big
share.
like filmmakers, like Spielberg and George Lucas and these types of people, Stanley Kubrick, like there's no way that it's just creativity. Like they definitely know a lot of the elements of the world script, for whatever reason.
Yeah, definitely Kubrick. I mean, like, some
It's
people are
just
at the
too much.
top of the list.
Yeah,
Like, you ever see like the Imagine Dragons music videos?
a little bit. I haven't gotten too into them, but I'm aware of them.
Them and 21 Pilots right now are probably just my favorite. Um, like they have, that song that's like "I'm on top of the world, yay," or whatever.
I don't
You
think
ever heard
so.
that
I
one?
may have heard it, but I don't know.
Well, it's like "I'm on top of the world, hey." Been waiting on this for a while now, paying my dues to the dirt. But anyways, the whole music video is all about how they faked the moon landing. And
Oh, cool.
they're showing you like the astronauts in a studio and everything. And they ripped off little elements from Kubrick's other, popular movies or whatnot. All right, let me get these images pulled up here. One sec. Here we go. All right, cool. Do you see what I'm seeing?
Yeah, it's Las Vegas.
All right, cool. Now, I'm not sure what order these are supposed to be in. This is the first image I got. You want to start here?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I wanted to kind of
Oops.
talk about the Camp of the Saints and how like all these huge movies, not this one, like this one's fine to start with, of course, but the other movies too they're just like the biggest movies, and for some reason, for some reason, uh, all these stories, they all culminate with this huge battle where there's like almost always a dome, there's almost always a North Pole mountain, there's almost always this group that could be like the Saints or the Camp of the Saints, and then there's this opposing force that's like the Army of the Dead or like the Kraken army, and it happens in like everything, like all the biggest things, like that's the Avengers. um you can see the dome, the Thanos force going after it is like the Army of the Dead. Like the smoke hitting the dome is like the Kraken tentacles, and like those smoke plumes keep hitting it, so it's like multiple tentacles. And it's
What's
like
this
what you
one?
talk about with the plasma apocalypse. Though that's another big aspect of the world script too. That this is in the Avengers also at the end, and it's basically like I forget the word for it, but like the Event Horizon movie where like the engine core has like those spinning discs around it,
Yeah,
or like spinning, not
like
necessarily discs, but like
gyroscopic things.
yeah, like rings.
Oh, they have that in the new Black Mirror too. Did you ever watch Black Mirror?
I've seen a few of the episodes, but I don't know if I saw that one.
So they
Maybe I
have
did.
Black Mirror has this episode called the USS Callister, where
Oh, I've seen that. Yeah.
yeah, it was where the people are like their DNA is cloned and then he puts them into his video game or whatever, right? So there's a sequel to it in the new Black Mirror episodes, and there's this space hub where everything is created, and they have the same concept of these rings, like these sort of geocentric rings that are just moving around each other as like the energetic center of the universe. It's pretty interesting.
Wow. Yeah, I was curious to get your take on it because I've seen it come up in a lot of things where there's like this central sphere, or it's maybe like third eye related, and then you have like these concentric ring, um, you know, movements, or these concentric rings moving around it, and then they
Yeah,
eventually all line up.
yeah. Well, I mean, off the top of my head, I would definitely relate it to the Apex Dome. So, I've talked about, I have my own cosmology of how the world looks, but specifically the firmament itself. Like, in general, I feel like the surface world where we live is, a plain and in general with valleys and mountains and stuff like that. But the shape of the dome itself is actually more in depth than just a simple bowl that's upside down on top of us. The apex portion of it dips inward and downwards towards us, creating that all-seeing eye, right? But in all these different Renaissance drawings, like there was times when people could see the firmament. It was lit up from below, and it was probably glowed from the lights that were already up there too. But it's that apex dome is it's got its own little concentric rings to it. That it's got probably between 3 and 7. I'm leaning towards 7 different portions to it, or different like levels to it, basically almost like like an Aztec pyramid that's facing down. You know what I mean?
Okay.
But
Yeah.
smooth and circular. You know what I mean? So that whenever we check out these pictures like this is what I'm seeing, which is Atlantis, like the ancient Atlantis that's reflecting the land of paradise below it, which is that circular land with the four rivers, but it's got its own rings up there in the sky. So we see these sections, or it looks like sections because of the optics, you know what I mean? So whenever we see these concentric rings in the movies, and they're always going around this central power source, which is shown to us like the all-seeing eye, like clearly right here in this picture. This is the apex dome. Or this is a type of the apex dome. It even has like this blue ruffly cloud around it in this particular image that you're sharing, which I talk about, you know, the how they show like Humpty Dumpty. He always has that blue ruffly collar and stuff like that. But
like
this
with
is the center
coming
point.
down.
Yeah, with like Jesus hanging up out of it during the ascension on the medieval drawings. This is the center point of it. So this is the all-seeing eye. It lights up red from the inside because on the other side, that's the color of the plasma that's wrapped around this world.
So the thing I see too, or to bring up, is have you seen the Avengers movies?
Most of them, yeah.
Well, so for this part, the character Thor, he has to die and then get reborn, basically, in order for this thing to work properly. And then he winds up getting like a super powerful weapon out of it.
Oh, this is the World Forge?
Yeah, it's
Is
a
that
forge,
what it is?
yeah.
Yeah.
So like I see some connections too with like the Mandela effect there, because now the sword and the stone is in like an anvil, and that's like a forge, you know. So it's like treating the center of the world or the apex dome as like a forge for the blue beam, perhaps.
No, I totally agree with you. So there's sort of two forges really. Because there's always the celestial, you know, as above, so below, right? So even in the Bible, like they built the tabernacle and whatnot, the Levites, you know, they had the tabernacle and stuff built after the heavenly version. There's a version of it above us, and there's a version of it below us. One, because it's reflecting what's below, which is an actual forge, which is the mountain, which is where like Hephaestus and other gods of old would forge things out of a volcano. That's why they're oftentimes the gods of volcanoes as well. And that whole island is created through quote unquote volcanic activity, but it's plasma volcanoes basically. But then you have a type that is above, like a pyramid type volcano looking structure above us, which is that apex dome, and it releases energy too. So there's two different types of energy being released. One is more of we would see it as a destructive energy coming from the heavens and down towards us out of the quote-unquote all-seeing eye. And the other one is a life-giving energy, like in the picture behind me where, you know, the plasma volcano shoots that blue beam up into the air. This one looks like it's from Harry Potter.
Yeah. So I would equate like the Hogwarts, you know, castle to the North Pole mountain. And at the end of the whole Harry Potter series, this was like one of the biggest, you know, movie and book series ever, or in like world script media, it's one of the biggest things ever. And it culminates with a dome. Like these characters put up a dome over the castle, and then like Voldemort's army is like the army of the dead, essentially on the outside of it. And if you flip forward a couple pictures, he even like shoots a blue beam like into the dome to destroy it, and that's them putting up the dome from the inside. And then that's him outside of the dome, and he's like shooting it with a blue beam. I think that maybe the next image. Yeah, so like it's hard to see because it's so dark, but that's him like shooting the beam at the dome, and that's what brings it down. So it's kind of like inverted from like most of the time you see the beam on in the center on the inside, but in this movie they inverted a little bit, so it's coming from the outside.
Right. Well, also, I would just add to that sometimes, remember how like sometimes I'll talk about how they show us symbolism of our world on different scales, right? So for example, in a movie, there's a white house and a black house almost always, you know, and sometimes it symbolizes our entire world, the entire earth, all of it. But sometimes it symbolizes the ancient world, which is Hyperborea, which is the Garden of Eden, because it also has its own dome. That one's energetic, though. It doesn't have a physical, like, ice dome to it. It just has an energetic barrier or a plasma sheath wrapped around it. You know, so
And that would be like
oftentimes,
the Camp of the Saints.
yes. So that's the Camp of the Saints that's protected by a plasma sheath or a plasma barrier, a dome, you know, an energetic barrier. Here's Voldemort. What's he doing here?
Yeah. Well, if you go back and forth between the next two pictures, you can see how they make his robes like the Kraken tentacles because he represents the Kraken. You see how they're like moving, and then he like ensnares
Oh, I see.
Harry. He
Oh,
ensnares Harry Potter with the tentacles.
I see. So he's kind of shooting the robe out at him.
Yeah. But I'm just
Well,
saying
that
it's like it's consistent with the Kraken attack from the outside of the dome, you know?
Yeah. Well, that makes sense too, because Voldemort is really Baldemort, which just means Lord of Death, basically.
Yeah, he's like the opposite of Harry, essentially.
Yes. And it's interesting too because the Hebrew word for mountain is Har. So
Oh.
Hari means place of the mountain or my mountain. So Hari and then Potter, which is an empty earthen vessel. You know what I mean?
That's interesting.
Like a volcano. All right, so this next one, The Hobbit. All the Lord of the Rings stuff, all of Tolkien stuff is all about ancient oblivion.
And that new Hobbit trilogy, like it was a pretty like consistent remark from normal people about the movie, where it just seemed like it was too big for The Hobbit. Like it didn't need to be like these three gigantic movies like Lord of the Rings and all that. But I think that they did that on purpose to establish all this world script symbolism, and like they added in all these scenes that are important. And they're basically I don't know if they're like magic spells or what. But for instance, like in the second movie, there's like this long extended scene with spiders in the forest where I don't know if have you seen the Hobbit movies?
Yeah, all of them.
So in the second movie, there's this part where they're walking through the forest and they all get ensnared by these spiders, and they're all stuck in like these spider webs and all that. And Bilbo has to get out of the spider web, and he uses his blue sword, which is of course the blue beam, to get out. And then he frees his friends, and then they kill the spiders. And there's literally a part where one of the giant spiders jumps on top of Bilbo, and he thrusts his sword straight up into it. So that's like the blue beam going right through the Kraken, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
But I think they just added that scene into because it wasn't necessary. Like they could have just, glossed over it really quickly or not even included it, but they chose to have this like huge long sequence about it. So I think it's just for that end of the world symbolism. I don't know why else they would do it.
I see that symbolism a lot too. So like it's very sometimes these types of topics can be complicated. If someone's thinking about it too much, I've found that the deepest truths of our world are really simple. They're simple concepts, easy to understand. So usually you have the straight and narrow, which represents Jesus, savior figures, the light of the world, the correct path, righteousness, healing energy, etc. The holy arrow, the beam, basically, right? And then you have division. It's literally the other plasma that comes down is divided amongst itself. However, it before the dome cuts it off, because the dome opens up, right? And then it comes in, and it's still connected to its source from beyond our world, right? Or to it, basically. All those little tentacles are connected to the larger picture out there that's running
The Cthulhu.
the inner, yeah, basically. But then it becomes cut off once the energetic barrier goes back up after the neutral point of a polarity shift, right? So all those tentacles, the hair of the gods and whatnot, they fall down into our world, and then they're free. They're individuals. They've gained their own individuality or potential to have an individuality apart from their programming or their source, what they were connected to previously before they came into this world. But now it's a closed system once more. Bam! The dome shuts off again, and they're in here, and now they have the potential to rebel or to change or to have, what seems to be an individual life or whatever. But you have literally division, like these strands, these plasma filaments that come in and they divide and they separate, and that's their nature to do that. And they can move about all around the world. But then you have these, the plasma volcanoes, Mount Meru being the largest of all of them at the center of the world, at the heart of the world. But then you have the little tiny places of power that are little versions of paradise, little fountains of youth all over the place. So that's why I like hearing people talk about, they all argue like, where's the fountain of youth? I think it's in Florida. Oh, I think it's in the Middle East. I think it's here. And I'm like, I think you're all right. There's just little tiny ones all over the place, but there's a big one there is a quintessential one, and it's at the heart of the earth. It's at the center of the world, you know? Let's get back to these pictures. I want to hear some more
Sure.
about this Hobbit pictures.
Sure. Uh, have you ever seen Samurai Jack? Just like super quick.
Yeah.
Have you ever, that like what you just described is like it's like the origin story of Samurai Jack. Have you ever saw that? Like where there's like
It,
this huge like Krakenish like monster, and like part of it gets cut off, and then like those tentacles like are what turn into that Aku, who's like the black spiked.
I do not know any of
Okay.
that.
Yeah. It's the same story
Is it a
over and
manga?
over
It sounds
again.
like it's a manga.
No, it's like I think it's an American cartoon, but it's
Okay.
based on a lot of that.
Is it like a Buckaroo Banzai type feel to it,
Uh,
or Guardians
no,
of the Galaxy kind of?
it's kind of like Kung Fu, where he's kind of like this wandering samurai. He gets like sent forward in time.
Okay.
So he's like this samurai from the past who fought this ancient evil, and now he's in the future where the ancient evil is running everything, and he's trying to go back in the past to defeat it.
Ah, yes.
So,
Are there monsters? Does he fight
yes,
Phantazoids?
lots of
I'm
fantasies.
sure.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, very good. Let's check these pictures out too. So this one shows the orcs. This is one of those white orcs.
So I kind of get the
Um,
feel like this is like the Gog and Magog, or maybe just like symbols for them. But there's like these two giant orcs that like run the undead army of the dead that are attacking the camp of the Saiyans.
yes. So let's talk about the Camp of the Saints from your perspective, as far as why that's important for you to research and what you think that it is. Just kind of explaining it, pretending like the audience, is unfamiliar with the concept.
Well, I mean, I just see it everywhere. Like it's in Lord of the Rings and Hobbit, that franchise. It's in Harry Potter franchise. It's in Star Wars, which I didn't even include in these images, but you could see it in the Phantom Menace. I know it's like a silly movie now, but like if you think about it, like Star Wars is such a huge thing. It is a big deal, regardless of how silly the dialogue is or whatever. But like at the end of that movie, where they have like the Gungan race, and they have like the blue plasma shield domes over them, and then
Yeah.
the droid army comes, and the droid army is essentially the Kraken army of the dead, because it's like a hive mind, and they're not like real living beings. And then it's in the Matrix, which I did include. And we can even go back to that Army of the Dead image from Las Vegas, because I agree. Like one of the things you say a lot is how a lot of cities around the world represent the North Pole, and I definitely see that in. I could talk about the United States. I'm sure other places like Jerusalem and like Moscow and stuff have it too, but in particular, I would say New York City and Seattle and Washington, D.C. and Las Vegas are all like interconnected, and they all represent the North Pole. I don't know if you've, covered that or like had that idea.
Like their interconnectedness, you mean like through tunnels?
Well, like the symbolism, like for instance, New York City. So we had like the twin pillars coming down, becoming the central pillar, which is like the blue beam.
Right.
And the name New York, York actually means like a yew tree, and the yew tree or the Yggdrasil tree or the world tree is essentially a yew tree if you look it up.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like saying like the new city of the tree of life, or the world tree.
With the World Tree Center.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And Seattle, I don't know if you know this, but its original name was New York City.
That I heard.
And then in Seattle, you have like the Space Needle. So the Space Needle is essentially like, I mean, it's multiple things, but it's like the blue beam going through the apex dome, essentially.
Right.
Because that's like the needle shooting into space. And that's also what, I think what the devil does, or what the physical world does on a smaller scale, where they have the smaller needle that's invading our inner space, but the real Space Needle is like the blue beam shooting into space. But Seattle is also known as the Emerald City, and in the North Pole, of course, is where the real Emerald City is, with the it has the green northern lights. But it's also like, if you look at a map of the Wizard of Oz land, Emerald City's like right in the center, like the North Pole, and it looks like the North Pole continents, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there. Like Seattle, it's even like an anagram for like the seat of L, stuff like that.
I'm gonna get that
and then
picture of the Wizard of Oz map pulled up while you talk.
Sure. And then Las Vegas. Las Vegas also has a big space needle. It's called the Stratosphere, and that's on like one end of the Las Vegas Strip, and then on the other end you have the Mandalay Bay, which is where that certain event happened. But that event was at the Harvest Festival, I believe, and I believe that was like symbolic of like, you know, the Kraken attack on the Camp of the Saints, essentially. And right next to it, you have the Blue Beam Pyramid, and you also have a casino called the Excalibur. So, like, what are the odds that like the Excalibur is right next to the Blue Beam?
Yeah, I know.
And, like, if you look at all the names of the big casinos in Las Vegas, they're all symbolic of the North Pole, because you have like Treasure Island, you have the Mirage. It's like a Mirage the Mirage, like the Mirage Island, you know.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there, and of course the Blue Beam is just huge. And then they have that Army of the Dead movie. Do you know about like when they filmed that Army of the Dead movie?
No.
They filmed it during the Pan event when everything was locked down.
Oh, okay.
So like Las Vegas was like totally empty. So like they want us to believe that there's this really scary, you know, illness going around, and meanwhile they're shooting this gigantic zombie movie in Las Vegas when it was completely empty. But to me, that was just another one of those world script like magic spells or whatever, because it's the Army of the Dead invading the North Pole, you know.
Yeah, so let's focus a little bit more on that, because we're going to be talking about the Camp of the Saints, right? And this is all ties into the Mandela Effect. These messages that I'm seeing with the Mandela Effect are completely related to the concept of the center of the world, the Camp of the Saints, the coming war, like a actual world war, not this popular country versus this popular country and a few subsidiaries. I mean, everything on Earth in flux and turmoil, even inner Earth denizens coming up to the surface, and outer space, you know, quote unquote outer space, right? But beyond the dome, entities or fractalverse travelers coming down into everybody meeting, and a battle for Mount Meru, a battle for the Holy Land, a battle for the place you want to be, which is paradise on Earth. I mean, if we're focusing on the terrestrial portion of it, which is a terrestrial paradise on Earth. All right, I'm just getting those pictures pulled back up one second.
I noticed like a lot of symbolism too, where there's like a new Jerusalem that comes down from the sky, but there's also the like fallen Atlantis kingdom that comes up from the bottom of the ocean, you know?
Yes. Oh, okay. Hold on. Give me one quick second. I got thoughts on that too. Hold on. Let me jump back in here. Okay. So like I said, we've got a heavenly version and an earthly version, right? So we've got an earthly paradise and the actual circular land, or square if you're in the Wizard of Oz, at the center of the world, which is where Oz is, which is where the physical terrestrial Atlantis, the land of Atlantis, the country of Atlantis, where they had advanced technology, longer lifespans, elements, magical, you know, metals and crystals and things like that, where they actually decorated their houses and stuff so that they could constantly be around these magical elements. But then we have the heavenly version of it. So this is something I've been working on. This is one of my newest sort of theories and revelations about the North Pole, is that time and time again there's this concept, and you probably have noticed this too whenever you're like watching the movies or you know, just paying attention to our world, the concept of floating cities. Basically, I had a guest on one time that has done a great job of documenting. He's got a couple videos about floating castles, floating cities, like the Holy City, New Jerusalem coming down from the heavens or whatever, right? So how can the Garden of Eden and that circular land at the center, the terrestrial land that's a part of the earth, come down from the sky? There's another version. There's another type that does come down from the sky. And I believe it's because the apex dome itself falls and breaks off, and it comes down. And I believe or my theory is so far, is that it might break off, and there's other pieces of the dome that will break off and become icebergs and, crush stuff down here on the surface. But that portion up there, right? If it's designed, if it's made the way that I believe it's made, then it's made in a similar way as our physical world is, with dirt and ground and all that type of stuff too. But it would be much smaller. So it would be like a small city instead of a whole world like how we have down here. And if it is electromagnetic in nature, think of what are those what do they call those magnets that that they just pass right through it? The energy passes super like instantaneously. You know what I'm talking about? Superconductor. So if the dome acts like a superconductor, and you have this strong magnetic force that's at the North Pole, represented by the Septentrion mountain range and Rupus Nigra itself, right? And it creates this dome barrier that's electromagnetic in nature. And then you have ice that's falling down in the heavens in the shape of a bowl that can hold something, right? Especially if it's got these different ziggurat type layers to it. And especially if we have conductive metals that perhaps might be mixed in or something. Anyways, I'm just throwing this all out there. But basically my theory is the apex dome, every other cycle, falls and then stops in midair. Like it's quantum locked. Like it's locked in place above because of the magnetic repulsion. Or I don't know how to explain it right now off the top, so you have to excuse me, but I just wanted to share that revelation. Like,
Sure.
I think it stops, and I think this is the story of King Og. You know, the last of the Nephilim, or the Raphaim, the giants of old in the Old Testament, right? So Og, according to tradition, he went to go kill the camp of the saints. He literally went and stood over the Israelites, all of them, that were all camped together in one spot, and the tradition says he grabbed a mountain and he lifted it up, and he was holding on to this mountain, this other world, basically, just like the blue beam would, right? And he went to go throw it down onto them with the intention of killing all of them. But it stopped in midair and hung around his neck, right? So I just see a lot of connection. They say that like there's needles and all this type of stuff that went through the mountain and sort of lodged it into his body. So it's like the mountain stuck on his neck or something like that. But there's a lot of Arabic drawings of this where they have, sometimes it looks like what do they call it? The stone wheel they would use to crush the grain, and there's a hole in the middle. You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you mean, but I don't know if I know the name.
Yeah, millstone, I think it's called.
Oh, sure.
It's like a donut shape, and it's like stuck around his neck. It's very interesting to me, like just to see the symbolism of it, And I see
There's like a line like that there's like a line like that in the Bible too, where it's like it's better to put a millstone around your neck than to like hurt children or something.
Well, yeah.
Of course, but
I mean, that's
I'm just
true on both levels.
But I'm just
right?
saying it might be referencing that other story too. If he's got like a millstone around his neck.
Yeah. And then also that reminds me of like the camel through the eye of the needle as well. The word camel is what they say the word gemel comes from, which is G, which is just the letter G in Hebrew, which is our letter C, or the third letter of the alphabet, or the alphabet.
And the children too. That would be like the camp of the saints.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So we're the children. Like Jesus, when he was around talking to all his followers, he didn't say, all right, grown adults, hear me out. He called everybody children,
For sure. Yeah.
And the children, if we live to be less than 100 years old, we're babies, we're children, we're adolescents, according to the Bible, at the very least. If we just strictly go off of the Bible, one, we can compare ourselves to the patriarchs of old, like all of these people that lived hundreds of years. Two, there's verses in the Bible that says that in the future, people would be considered cursed if they didn't make it to 100 years old, that they would be considered children, before they reach their 100th birthday, which would be like 10 years old, or just coming into adolescence if you live to be 1,000 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
All right, let's check out these pictures some more. I got them pulled up here. All right, so we were on. This is symbolically showing how there's going to be these otherworldly entities that surround the camp of the saints. And whenever we talk about that, it's mostly from like a biblical reference, although it's also within, you know, various other religions and myths and things like that, where it says that one day in the future, and this also happened in the past a long time ago, that there were armies of the world, but they were otherworldly. It wasn't just human beings, just as it's portrayed by Tolkien, that it's a gathering together of all these different ones, but they show you these two kinds, right? So one kind we have here, which is sort of what I would consider like the elven race. You know, there's very albino looking, pointy ears, stuff like that, right? These orcs, which by the way, the word orc is also ogre, which is those of Og, or from the land of Og, where Og lives, or King Og, the giant, or the one-eyed, you know, Cyclops giant or whatever, which is the blue beam. And then, so, you know, we have all these references, like it's all cartoonified and stuff. He's got like a metal portion right there or whatever. Oh, you can't see it. Hold on. There we go.
Well, those are just like the two leaders. Like, if it is like a Gog Magog thing, like they make a big point out of these two leader orcs, and their names. I think they're in like the image files. Like one, like they're even called something. Like one is I kind of forget their names, but it's like Balg and you know, Zorg, or it's close to Gog and Magog, sort of.
Yeah. So, in the Lord of the Rings, like the TV show, the Rings of Power, there's this one orc, and he said that the original name for the orcs, because they're calling them orcs like it's a derogatory term. You know what I mean? Do you remember what that was?
I don't think I saw the Lord of the Rings. You mean the new one?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Man, let me try to think of what it was called, because it is important for the words or whatever. Orukai.
Oh, sure.
Urukai. So it's Ur, U-R, which is like, and there's a land of Ur in the Bible, and Ur means light. It's where we get aura from, or the aurora borealis or whatever, right? So Ur or Urok means like the light, basically. Urka or Urka, right? Orc basically means like the light, or from the light, or beings from the light, beings from these places, that places of power, specifically the Garden of Eden. This is also where I think pirate comes from, is the pirate Alt, which is the
pirates,
lights, people
a big
from the
thing I've been
lights.
seeing. Yeah, like pyramid.
What's that?
Like pyramid, which you've brought up. You know, like
oh yeah,
fire
pyramid.
mountain.
Yeah, the Pier Alt, the pirates, and then the Pier Amid, the lights on the inside, right? Damn, I forgot what I was going to talk about. But anyways, so there's the surrounding of the camp of the saints. That's what we're talking about, right? So biblically speaking, there's going to be these. It's not going to be just humans, just your governments of the world that want to go back to that land and take it over, right? Which ultimately they're prophesied to be destroyed. It's futile. They all head there. They feel this calling or whatever to go there, maybe selfish calling to take the land or whatever. But fire comes down from the heavens in the Bible, and it destroys this huge army. But there's these different types of people that gather there, and these are one of the types. These orcs or urukai or elven race or whatever, right?
And there is also one of the armies is actual, like the elves. So like maybe like one is like the I don't have a picture of it, but like, you know, the I don't know, good elves and bad elves or something along those lines. Like if the orcs maybe are like fallen elves.
Right. So in my newest book, Return to Hyperborea, I have a section on this where I talk about this theory. So you know how I talk about that there's Mount Meru, and paradise is the central place of power, but it's flanked by a positive island and a negative island, which are the anode and cathode islands, which is just what I call them affectionately, but they're positive energy and negative energy. And therefore it reciprocates on a physical level, right? Those living natives on those islands and those who live beneath those islands in those cave systems in the inner earth, right? They're born and they have these effects of how you would be affected if you were just surrounded by constantly negatively charged energy or positively charged energy. one of those effects is men and women. Islands of mostly men and islands of mostly women, right? And then the feminine side tends to be more like attractive, beautiful qualities, smooth skin, fair skin, not a lot of hair or anything. But then the other side tends to be the opposite, a bunch of hairy, wild men and women, which like Star Wars Chewbacca, I forgot what those ones
The
are called.
Wookiees.
Yeah, they're a part of it. In the Star Wars, they go to war too. There's a whole world of the Wookiee world. You know what I mean? They're the wild men. They're the wild people. So that's kind of how I see Gog and Magog as far as that goes. Like this, just those ancient races rising back up. Bigfoot is probably a strong contender for
That's
one of
interesting.
them.
Yeah.
All right, let's check out these pictures some more here. So this next one, what's going on this one?
This actually gets interesting with the Army of the Dead idea invading the Camp of the Saints because I think it is mentioned in the Hobbit book, but like very little. But they made a big point of it in the movie, and so this character is the Necromancer, and the Necromancer turns out to be Sauron. But what a Necromancer is like a wizard who could basically rise the dead. So there's a really have you heard about the theory that the orc armies are actually dead and like zombies?
No, but that makes a lot of sense though.
So like Bilbo's sword, it glows blue whenever he's around an orc or a goblin. And in the first Hobbit movie, they show like when he meets Gollum for the first time, they show there's like an orc down there too, or a goblin. And and his sword is glowing blue. And when that orc dies, his sword stops glowing blue and it just returns to being a normal sword. So the producers of the movie are telling us that it doesn't glow blue if there's just like a dead orc around. It has to be a living orc. And then throughout the next couple movies, his sword pretty much never glows blue, even though he's around like orcs and goblins and stuff. So it's kind of telling us between the Necromancer and the sword not glowing that this actually is like an army of the dead that's attacking the Camp of the Saints.
Right. No, that makes sense. So the blue sword representing Excalibur, the blue beam. And then this Necromancer idea. So for those that don't know, this is supposed to be Sauron up here, right?
Yeah, but they don't call him that for a while.
And then this is, who's this, the Necromancer?
I think it's Galadriel.
Oh, Galadriel, okay. So she's like one of the leader elves. So she represents the feminine energy and whatnot from, the forest of Hyperborea, the Hyperborean forest and stuff.
Like the top elves and wizards went to try to fight the Necromancer at some point.
Yes, so we got a lot of different symbolism. Oh, this one's from The Matrix.
Yeah, another
this
huge
is Zion.
movie franchise. Yeah, so they're in Zion. It's like this giant dome. There's a blue beam that shoots from the center of the from the ground up to the center of the dome. Then you have the Kraken army that literally comes in from the top. Like it's like literally just the same thing over and over again. And these aren't just like random movies. It's like the biggest movies of all time.
Yeah, and that even looks like all of my terminology, like the Apex Dome aside, that's the Death Star. That's the physical moon. That's the actual. Okay, we're looking at a movie right now, but it represents real life. Okay, hold on. Let me just.
It has to. Why would
for
it all
everyone
be the
that's
same
watching,
story?
okay, like we're breaking this down. Like all these things are interwoven throughout our reality. Okay, so this is the Death Star. This is the inverted dome at the top of the firmament, which opens up. It cracks open, and this is the actual physical moon. This would all be ice, from my view, to allow light to pass through it. But yeah, and then all these little sentinels come through this, right? And they're all red eyes and stuff. They represent the red plasma, the tentacles that separate, the Hydra, all that stuff. Is this them coming through?
Yeah, they come in through like a spiral. Opening.
There's the beam.
Yeah.
So there's the beam, and then all the people are getting ready for this event, and then all these little lines are them shooting at it. They're shooting at the aliens that come in through the dome, right?
Yeah, they look just like Kraken entities. Like, I didn't put a good picture of the Sentinel in there, but they're
we know
like
what they look
robot.
like.
Yeah, they're like robot squids. They call them squiddies too.
Yeah, so they come through. This is, see even how it's like shaped like a spiral, like like how I always talk about the plasma conduit on the other side of our world, right? It's spiraling down into the Earth. So on the other side of this, you would see Hyperborea because they're directly at the apex of the firmament. So all that plasma rushes down. There's an opening. It just pours into our world, and then all these people are trained to wait until the aliens come and go to war or whatever against the aliens. Or the alien forces or energies. All right, so this brings me back to high school. This is Chumbawamba.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. This gets a little into the. What did you say the name was?
Chumbawamba?
Yeah. It's not that anymore, but that's exactly what I remember.
What? What is it? What is it now? Is it Mandela affected?
Yeah. Well, you can go to the. I mean, I don't know if people want to answer or anything in the chat, but I remember it being Chumbawamba, like the two parts of the name rhymed, but it's but like so their most famous song I think is about the blue beam. I get knocked down but I get up again.
Yeah, tub thumping.
Yeah, I don't know about the name tub thumping, but the whole idea of something being knocked down and getting up again I think is a big part of the world script. It's like the Phoenix also, but now it's Chumbawamba.
No way, that's Chumbawamba. Dude.
Yeah,
nah, forget that.
So the U turning into an A correlates. I'm not 100% sure on the specific letters yet, but it correlates somehow to I think the blue beam and the North Pole and what we're talking about. Like why? Like any letters could have been changed, but it was specifically the U to the A.
Right. Well, if we just look at the letters, because I know that you're particularly interested in like how they changed the letters, like the top of the A being cut off. Right.
Sure, but that might have always been that way. I don't know about that.
Well, I'm not saying it's a Mandela effect. I'm just saying let's take a look at the symbolism of it, right?
Oh, sure.
So if this was a U before, that's a Vav, right? And it's an interchanging of symbolism. It's the same exact symbolism actually. So this version of the A creates, a freaking volcano basically. It's a volcano shape. The U is the Vav, which is the beam that connects the earth to the sky, which is the tent peg of the earth. It's literally a tent peg in the ancient languages. So it's just the same exact glyph if you want to look at it as like a picture, you know what I mean? Oh, I've been here. This is Vegas and this is that sphere. So this blew my mind when I looked at your pictures because the sphere, this is all like, they're using lights to make it. It does look like a dome. It looks like a dome. Yeah, let's zoom in on this. Check this out. So this building, these are all lights to make it look like it's something it's not, right? This is actually like just a facade on the outside of the actual building that's inside of it. These are all just lights all the way around, and they create pictures, and they look very realistic. Holy cow. And it opens up, and there's a Titan-looking giant on the inside, but it also kind of looks like an eyeball opening, right?
Yeah.
And it opens up. Check this out. Hold on, let me zoom in on this. This technology is mind-blowing to me. When I see this in real life, it's just like amazing. So he's in like this forest, tropical looking area, very white, bald head, kind of like how Neo was when he was born out of the Matrix. And then there's this light. It's got like this inner light or something. This is insane. How did they do that?
I think they actually shoot a light into the sky. I don't know.
I've never seen it do that. But
yeah, for anyone who wants to look it up, this is for a show for a DJ called Anima, something like that. But I don't know if he's even still at the Sphere, but he had like a regular show there, and they would do this advertisement.
That's insane. There's a difference between looking like it's 3D and then just leaving the building with lights and beams and all of that crud. But yeah, so this is definitely a lot of the same type of symbolism. Our cosmology shown to us, ancient oblivion with titans and giants. This is clearly like a type of Garden of Eden behind him, where you can see all this lush tropical vegetation and stuff. And this is the place where it all begins, where the light comes forth and bursts up into the air. These are the pillars. These are those sky pillars that I'm constantly talking about. This is why we're seeing them resurface in this modern age. A lot of those omens and stuff, where people are seeing sky pillars. There's a Pac-Man symbolism too. So there's a lot of the Pac, the plasma apocalypse cycle. So the Pac-Man is basically the dome. I don't know how else to explain that. It's the apex dome, and it opens up. But yeah, then it closes up just like this, just like a dome would.
I think all the big features in Las Vegas are like North Pole related.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I like the connection you made with Excalibur right across from Luxor.
And it gets even deeper too, because at that corner, there's the New York. So we already talked about how New York is like the North Pole also, because it's like the new world tree. And then the next one is the MGM, and the MGM is like the two mountains with like the G in the middle, you know?
Yeah. So MGM's right over here somewhere, I think. Or maybe
And
this is it.
I looked up what Mandalay means, and I think it means like the shores of like an island or something. Like it's like the Mandalay Bay is right on the edge, so that's like the shore of the North Pole Island, and then all these other big casinos and buildings and things represent the North Pole, and then it ends with the Space Needle.
Yeah. Oh my God, this is insane. Just all these different connections. All right, let's finish up these rest of these pictures and see what we got here. This is good stuff.
Thanks, man.
So the Princess Bride. Oh, okay. Well, automatically you can see there's the two towers, the two pillars, anode and cathode on either side. Boaz
So
and
I
Dark King.
think that these next few are all going to be like princess related, because that's another way to describe the blue beam. I think because it's like a feminine energy, and that's like the princess like that has to be rescued from being imprisoned in the underworld or inside the dark castle or something, which is what the blue beam is right now. And the Princess Bride, I remember it being just Princess Bride, and now it has the word "the" put in the front, which is another common Mandela effect. Well, the biggest "the" one is probably Smokey the Bear no longer having the. I think most people can relate to that one, but there's a lot of other ones like it used to be Silence of the Lambs, but now it's the Silence of the Lambs. It used to be Return of the Living Dead. Now it's the Return of the Living Dead.
Right, yeah.
Lord of the Rings used to be Lord of the Rings. Now it's the Lord of the Rings.
So that's interesting to me too, because that's just the word "the" is what it's called, the definite article, and it's pointing to something specific. You know what I mean? Just like a sign would. So it's literally a sign. You know what I mean?
Well,
like
I thought
whenever
about it
a
in
sign
terms-
is being added or removed.
Sure, but I thought about it in terms of what you say with the letters, because the T would be like a cross, and then the H is like a gate or like a ladder, and then the E would be east. So to me, it's probably a good thing where it's like you cross through the eastern gate, perhaps, if you break it down like that.
Right.
But it also equals 33, THE.
And then see, also look here that they've got the clouds. Like these are clouds. It's not fog. You know what I mean? This is the land over here. Where is this supposed to be? You know what I mean? It's not just, most people would just dismiss this and say, oh, it's just art. That's just how they made it without putting any thought into it. But no, let's examine, there's something to this. I don't care if it's purposefully done or subliminally or subconsciously done. You know what I mean? Like this should put a thorn into our minds that there are clouds, sky clouds. These are sky clouds underneath a castle. Like it's a castle in the sky. You know what I mean?
Yep. I also think the dot inside of the C
Yeah.
is new. I don't know if you remember that, but that's like another common Mandela effect pattern is a dot being put inside of a C or a
Yeah.
O.
Well, like I said, the modern letter C is equal to the letter G, and on many of those medieval maps where they have the land at the North Pole, especially the Urbano Monte one that I feature all the time, the letter G is at the center of the map. It's nobody knows why, you know what I mean? But there's a G right there at the center, and that's.
Well, I probably learned it from you, but that's what I was talking about, like with the MGM, because it's like the two mountains
right.
on this side of the G.
Yeah. Look, hold on. Let's check this out. There's also clouds on this one too. Look at this. See that? The island surrounded by clouds.
Yeah.
The tower, that's Thor. right? There's a big fat mountain right behind it. I mean, there's just steeped in symbolism here. Always looking for the wrong castle.
Yeah. Well, this one doesn't really affect me, unfortunately, too much. But a lot of people say this used to say, "Sorry, Mario, but your princess is in another castle," and I
Yeah,
think
now
that
it
is
says
what it used
thank
to
you.
say.
What the hell?
Yeah.
There's no way he says thank you.
Yeah, I feel like it's not like 100%er for me, but a lot of people do remember it being your princess. So here's another princess related Mandela effect where there's a princess in a castle that needs to be rescued.
Thank you, Mario, but our princess is in another castle. See, that's interesting. Check this out. Hold on, let me jump back in here. Hold on. Dang, this is so deep. So Mario has the big fat M on his hat, right? The Masons, the Freemasons. He basically is he's destroying bricks and things of this nature all the time, right? And
That's
he's
funny.
looking for the princess, which is Sophia, which is this earthly energy, this geoplasma that comes up out of this castle. And the word castle is directly related to things like mountains and mountainous heaps and towers and stuff like that, right? Natural ones. And then man made their own towers, which are versions of the natural ones that exist, But yeah, Mario, the freaking Mason, he's going from place to place looking for home. You know what I mean? Looking for it's like the princess isn't, symbolically, it's not a real woman. You know what I mean? It's life. It is the life-giving energy. It's wisdom itself. And all these things. And Mario is constantly looking for that. Same thing with Zelda and Link, and all these
Yeah.
video games, all these princesses that are getting kidnapped all the time.
And these are the
That's-
biggest video games ever.
Yeah.
Like, have you played Mario 64?
I've played all the Marios.
Well, I mean, that one's got like the central castle, which is he's basically like at the North Pole, and then
Yeah.
inside of the castle is all these different paintings, and he could go inside of each painting, and it's like a portal to a different world.
Yes. So that's another concept too, is this jumping into the paintings idea. Mary Poppins had that whole thing a long time ago. They jumped into the painting, into the world that was created through creativity, right? And that gets into the larger world of what I refer to as the fractal verse or the multiverse, as people want to see it or whatever. But it's all these different earths, all these different realities and possibilities from, the butterfly effect. It's same codes, same people, same worlds, basically, but different paths, every single one, which creates a different world. Sometimes slightly different, sometimes vastly different, all these different worlds, right? And we just keep on repeating the same pattern. Like the Bible literally says there's nothing new under the sun. And the more I study this, the more I'm seeing the truth of that no matter how much we try to innovate or to come up with new things, we're just recreating or recreating. We're playing around with things that are already here. All the tools that are already exists and available, we're just rearranging them to try to make something new, but we can't because it's holographic and fractal. So every time we try it, we think we've made something new on the larger or smaller scale. It's already there. We're just tapping into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, all these big stories are essentially the same story.
You like me. You really like me.
Well, what's interesting here, it's two things. So her name changed because it used to be Sally Fields with an S, but now it's Sally Field, just singular. And the name Sally means princess, so it's like Princess Field.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then she said like I think this might tie into the Little Season idea. Which I'm not 100% on, but I do think there's a lot going on there. But she says like something like, in the past I didn't feel it, you didn't really like me, but now you really like me. So it's kind of like this idea where, maybe we had a chance, to like God and his ways and we didn't, but now we do, something along those lines.
Yes. And that's where we need to have a little conversation, because that's why I titled this The Message in Me. Because you and I have been talking, here and there about the Mandela effect and receiving messages that seem to be ingrained within each of these tiny little minute changes, right? So one of the questions that people that discuss the Mandela effect is why change such insignificant things, or why not change gigantic things, or whatever. If it's messages, this is the same thing in Interstellar. Remember in Interstellar, whenever the guy is in the what do you call it? The Tesseract, and he's trying to communicate. He didn't change the whole world that his daughter lives in the past or whatever. He just knocked over a couple of books in a particular sequence in a little pattern that only she would recognize, or that he knew that she would recognize, right? So it seems clear to me that these are messages, that they're doing things like adding or removing signs, like the definite article that point to and something specific instead of something vague or bland or broad. That there a lot of these, and most of them are referencing either instructions. They seem to be instructions, basically, to me. This is so I'm sharing how I feel about it. Sure. But they seem to be instructions and messages about the bigger picture of reality, of the nature of reality, of the nature of our world and ourselves, our actual selves, and the fractal nature of everything that is above and within us. You know what I mean? Like how I was talking about I don't know if you saw my video about the fractal verse and how we're all actually Who's from Whoville, or you know what I mean? Yeah. So there's all these things that are happening inside of us, to all these worlds and galaxies and little, worlds that are in our minds and in our bodies, especially within the brain and the actual mind. But all these different Mandela effects they seem to me to be specifically chosen. So for example, let's take my favorite one. Berenstain. Steen means stone, right? Baron means lord, or it can mean lord, like in German, like if Baron von Liechtenstein or whatever, I got movies on my head. So it's a baron, somebody that's in charge of the land, a landlord. And then Steen is stone or rock, right? Mm-hmm. Like the rock of God, or the rock, which is this one behind me. And it's been changed to stain, to like a blemish. You know what I mean? Like the black rock and the white rock. The black rock is the blemished stone, the stained baron, the lord of the earth, or Enki, or there's different.
It could also mean a burning stone, which is the same thing as what you're saying.
Yes. So the stone that is emitting light or fire or burning, the volcano, the forge, the forge of the world, and the forge that forges the world and reshapes, the actual terrain and stuff, right? Yep. But so that's just one example for me, right?
And there's even more too. Like I haven't fully fleshed that one out yet, but you could look into like the bear symbolism too, because I think the name Arthur means bear, and there's also
related to the bear, yeah.
And I Pet Goat too. When like that Lucifer character is dancing around the fire in the end, he puts on different masks. And the first mask is like a frog, and then he puts on a bear mask, and then he puts on like a raven mask, and it's kind of like I don't know exactly how to put it, but maybe like the left pillar animals like rising up, because it's like the frog is like the lowly like swamp creature, then like the bear is like kind of like the land creature, and then he's able to fly as like a raven. But there's something going on there with like the bear being like maybe like a negative, or like a I don't know, like the opposite of Arthur, or I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on that.
No, you're really close. I feel like you're super on point. So the bear constellation is really what that's getting at, is the seven sisters, the seven stars of the Big Dipper and then the Little Dipper respectively, which are both in the northern sky basically, right? The Little Dipper, or the Little Bear, literally has like today's North Star at the tip of its handle or whatever, right? So they call those the bear constellations, which are the northern constellations. But the name Arthur is literally Har Tor, or the mountain of Thor, or the mountain tower. Quite literally, it means mountain tower, right? And it's not like, oh, it's a really tall mountain. It's a tower. It shoots up straight up out of the ground like the devil's tower. That's why it's called a tower. You know what I mean? But yeah, the frogs, there's a correlation there with the beast that comes up out of the north. In the book of Revelation, they said there was 3 evil spirits that looked like frogs that came out of the beast's mouth. Right?
Yeah.
So these beams and stuff, they create these pictures in the sky. And one of the pictures that they look like, or they have been drawn as, especially in petroglyphs, is a frog. And it looks like roadkill, basically. Like sometimes it's a frog, sometimes it looks like a squirrel or whatever. But there's 3 of them, right? Because there's these 3, anode, cathode, and Mount Meru, that shoot up out of the northern ocean in the Arctic. And there's this beast-like figure. It creates like a back from, remember how I said over the Garden of Eden, there's a plasma sheath that grows. It grows up from the earth. And it's like a turtle rising up out of the ground. It's this huge plasma sheath. It kind of dips in the middle, but it's dome-like, right? And then you got these beams that shoot up, and they're described as frogs in the book of Revelation, a part of it. This is before the energy flips and becomes good. So they see it as evil or bad or whatever. And then the bear represents the north, like we talked about. And what was the last one? A bird, a crow.
Oh, the raven, yeah. Well, it could be a crow. It could be a crow. I'm not sure.
Same deal,
Yeah.
right? Raven comes from craven. Basically, it's directly related to the word, and crow as well, right? And these are types of these cosmic birds, these huge, gigantic birds of creation who flap their wings and cause a tempest and a world storm and change the terrain and blow people away into the sky and stuff. Or Mothra, it could be all kinds of winged creatures or whatever. All right, let's jump back to these pictures.
This is kind of interesting. Have you ever seen the show Severance?
Oh, I have. That's what this is. I mean,
It's
I
like
saw
from the intro?
I saw the first season, I think.
Me too. Yeah, I haven't seen the new one yet. But so there's this Bible passage that changed, and a lot of people have a very negative view on the Bible changes, and some of them might totally be negative. But I'm thinking that maybe there's a positive way to look at some of them. And like one of the changes, I think it's a King James only change, and it's that it's basically about the rapture when there's 2 men working in a field and 2 women grinding in a mill, and one is taken and one is left. But now it says there's 2 men in a bed and one is taken, and 2 women grinding and one is taken.
Stop. Shut up. No way. Time out. Wait a minute. Hold on. Two men in a bed, and one is taken, 2 women grinding?
That's
What?
the official King
Hell
James
no.
version of the
Hell no. Are you
Bible.
serious? Oh my, okay. Okay, go ahead.
Well, I mean, if you want to pull it up, that's cool.
Yeah, I'm looking that up, right? That's insane. Hold on. To Bible verse. Go ahead.
So I'm not saying it's not understandable to have a negative view of those changes, but what I'm saying is there could be a more positive look at them as well.
This is gonna blow my mind if this says this.
It should be the 1611 King James.
Okay. Let's see. I'm just pulling up Bible.com right now. 2 women shall be grinding together. Stop. 1 shall be taken, the other left. 2 men shall be in the field. Or this one says field. All
Okay,
right.
there's
You're
that
lucky,
King
James.
James?
About to have.
Was that King
Anyways.
James?
Yeah, that was allegedly. I don't know. I'm pulling up the first thing I see here. This is Bible. Yeah, KJV it says.
Okay.
Let me check out my favorite.
Last time I checked, it was
website.
2 men in a bed, and
I'm checking. Let's see. Let's find out. So we got. I'm looking at. Okay, KJV. Hold up. 1 sec. 2. Yeah. Okay, so this version I'm looking at says, "Then 2 shall be in the field, 1 shall be taken, and the other left. 2 women shall be grinding at the mill." This one says at the mill. 1 taken, and the other one left. I don't know. The way you said it sounds way suspect, I would say.
yeah, I have to check it out. That was the last time I checked
But
it.
hey, that's the same exact area in the Bible where it talks about how people will see all these false Christs, right? So just hear me out for a second. If there's truth to this theory that I present, that there are geoplasmas and that there are gases in the earth that will be released all together over a short period of time. They'll start to be released, right? And they ionize. All those little tiny fountains of youth that I was talking about, those little places of power, they will be seen first. So the people will look and say, there is a healing light, or you could say Christ. No, there's one over there. You know what I mean? They're starting to reemerge from these places where people thought that they were and argue about where they were all this whole time. But the last one is the king. The last one is the king of all of them. You know what I mean? It's the last one to show up. So these people are saying, oh, look, there it is. There's the sign, or look, there it is. And it says, no, don't believe that. Like, there are versions of it showing up. There is some substance there, but it's not it's not the final. It's not the last one to arrive. They're heralds. You know what I mean?
I wonder if they're gonna make like a path to the North Pole. Like they keep getting bigger and bigger. To the final destination.
Like lighting the way home.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. So definitely, I totally think so, because all the little ones seem to be further away. Just like a tree. Like all the little openings and stuff seem to be furthest to the outside. So I would expect, with exception, I would expect there to be lights that light up sort of all the way home. And we follow those lights until the last one, right? Once the last one shows up, then you're good to go, right? But if you get there before the last one, you might be a part of the people surrounding the camp of the saints that get destroyed. All right, let's check out this picture. So this was a good show, Severance.
Yeah, really
good. They split the guy's mind between when he's at work and when he's playing or recreating, like we were talking about. And it shows here he's literally under the blue beam, right? Laying down in bed, asleep in the dark, which would be like under the earth, if this is symbolic of the blue beam, just waiting. Right? Waiting for his time.
Yeah, this whole intro is really amazing. It's amazing, the symbolism in it. I'd have to look up the Bible verses to get it correct, because I didn't have that prepared. But there's something along the lines of two men in a bed and one will be taken. And so in this show, this is the same person. So it's showing two men in a bed, but it's the same guy. It's not like two.
It represents his two altars in his mind, basically. This represents good and evil, blue and red right there. So one represents one world or one mode of thought, and the other represents, see, this side's in the dark. You can see that? This one's in the light, this one's in the dark over here, but it's the same person.
Right. So I'm just saying, like, if people get kind of outraged about that Bible change, but I'm saying maybe it's just talking about the same person. It's just another way to look at it,
Right. I hear you. Short circuit, no disassemble.
Well, if you look at the font and the letters, like these titles are totally messed up for these movies, and I kind of think it relates to like the sun's circuit, like because it's going to keep getting shorter, as it goes around the North Pole.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then they have like the lightning hitting them, or it depends on how you interpret it. The brain could see this as coming off of him and going upwards too.
Like, look at how crazy the letter is. Like those letters, they definitely weren't like that, And again, like it could be changed any which way, so like the S and the H don't seem to be altered, but they could have been altered, So I think it's sending us, specific messages as to what exact letters changed and which ones are merged together.
Yeah, and then the little I.
Yeah, and like the T going to the left. There's a lot of like T's that are kind of cut in half now, so like some point to the left, some point to the right. And
is this more letters?
Yeah, so like Tetris, like that's like the tet, that you talk about. And if you go back to that first image, just like check out the lettering at the top. Like it's definitely different. Like there's no way it was like that. And then this is kind of like it's showing like the blue beam,
Yeah, hold on. Let me zoom in on this. So check this out. So if we zoom in, right, just looking at things from an etymological viewpoint, right, this is Tatar or Tatar, which is the original name for Tartarians or whatever, right? They were actually the Tatar or the Tatir, you could say, which means of the Tet, basically, or from the Tet, or the Tet people, right? And then the IS at the end is really just OS or US or UZ, etc. It just means strength. So the strong Tatar. And at the bottom down here, what does it say? From Russia with fun.
And it's a pyramid.
Right. So and Russia means the top land of Yah, or Enki, essentially. Another name for Enki is Yah. Tetris 2, take on a tougher Tetris challenge. So putting the pieces together, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and what's interesting too is if you look at the two T's in the first Tetris and then look at the second Tetris, the second Tetris, the second T isn't disconnected. So like what's it saying there? Like how come those T, like the first two T's are disconnected? Now the second one, only the first T is disconnected and the E.
Right.
But then the second T is the way it probably always was.
I see a lot of like putting the puzzle pieces together symbolism. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
Like things that were broken that are now coming together. And it talks about that in the Bible too. That's one of the prophecies that during the end times that the people will basically, that there's going to be an awakening. There'll be a huge mass deception for the majority of the population, which are easily deceived. But for those who are not the majority, for those of us who have that seed of the tree of life within us, that our spirit, our aura, our functionality is strengthened and just as theirs is. So all the sleepwalkers and zombies and stuff become even more so. They're greatly deceived. But those of us who are enlightened or upon that path become even more so enlightened, and our spirits strengthened just as much, except for there's, we're the seed, we're the remnant. So there's less of us than there are all the sleepwalkers or whatever.
Well, that's like the camp of the saints. It's always like this small group of magical people or like, magical children or whatever. And then you have like the gigantic army of the dead, that's just innumerable.
Right. So this one, the doors too, this one's interesting. Just the idea of the doors and the chambers and stuff like that. But then they also put the Vav in here with the O's.
Yeah, I think those O's are now slanted to the sides. And then the Break On Through song, that has some changes too, where it used to say she gets over and over, but now it says she gets high over and over again. But I think that's like the princess, or Sophia or the blue beam getting high and breaking through to the other side. Yeah, that logo's definitely got some changes going on.
This is the Paradise Island right here.
Yeah, you're right.
The S with the quadrants. And then the Vav is, it's the blue beam itself, basically. And it's the door, like the god of the doors, the Janus, the god of the doorways and the portals and stuff. A lot of that has to do with that. Breaking through. In his mind, he has the power to see the future. In his hands, he has the power to change it. Stephen King's The Dead Zone.
Well, that's me. Like, I think the title got merged together, and it also is a big candidate for having the word "the" put in the front as well.
Oh, just Dead Zone. Yeah.
Yeah, and it also has it looks like the blue beam coming up with like the mist, over the North Pole.
Yeah, possibly, or like that. Upside down. This could be like the apex dome.
Oh yeah.
And that's the firmament, and then it's depressurization and stuff, and all the little tentacles coming out. And this could also be like the sun. Whenever the sun shoots its beam downwards, there's an exact opposite to all the good things, like the blue beam and stuff. We just tend to see the blue beam because we resonate with that, but there's always its opposite in there.
Well, this is another big Mandela effect now where Tinkerbell. So Tinkerbell, actually, her name is different too. It used to be just one word, but now it's like Tinker space Bell. And then she doesn't do like the wand tap on the Disney logo anymore. But you can see she's it's clearly about the dome being made over the castle. So this is like another North Pole symbol. And then the word bell, it comes up a lot. So.
Yeah. Well, like I said, the word Bel is directly, it's Baal or Baal. Like people say Baal, the evil god of the Bible, but it's Baal, basically. And it's where we get like ball, a ball shape, but it's not a ball as in 360 degrees like the Earth, how it's portrayed in academics. It's half of a ball, which is a dome, which is the apex
Right.
dome above. And that is the Lord of the Sky, or Enlil, if we're going with the Enki Enlil, narrative or whatever. But this shows you, God, man, this shows you everything. This shows you, look, why would you build a castle going on top of the river? And
And
it's
I
not
think
just
there's
one
more.
river.
Yeah.
There's a bridge on this side, which means there's water over there, and there's a bridge on this side. This is paradise. This
Yeah,
castle
totally.
is not a castle. This is Mount Meru that shoots up. It's a jagged mountain or whatever. And the very top of it, the flag will break through. This is an energetic dome. So you could look at it like it's the dome and this is the world or whatever, but it's really smaller than that. This is a type of paradise in the camp of the saints. And this is the energetic dome that goes around it, or the plasma sheath. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's just unbelievable to me how much of Hollywood and all this media, it's just about this. It's like, the fallen angels or whatever just ingrained this into like all of like Paramount, Columbia, the Disney, like all the
Yes.
biggest companies, like you talked about, like it's just all the same thing.
All right, so we got Tinkerbell. Oh, the Beatles. That's pretty deep.
Well, this song, it's like, I get high with a little help from my friends, and this song definitely changed. It used to say, "What would you do if I sang out of tune?" But now it's, "What would you think if I sang out of tune?"
No
Um,
way.
yeah,
I grew up watching the Wonder Years every day, dude. Like I sang
yeah.
along to that song.
The Wonder Years theme song is still the same, so that proves it used to be that way. But the Beatles song is "Think" now.
Wow.
But it's about like the blue beam, and I think honestly it's really profound. And if you think about it, it can make you cry really, because it's like I feel like this is God saying like I'm coming back with some help from my friends. He's almost like he's not going to come back if there aren't people like us who are spreading the truth and talking about these things. Like it's like we're the friends, and
Yeah.
we're giving a little help to the blue beam and to God to restore this life energy to the earth.
Well, let's take a look at the change too. So it's changed from do to think, right? So
Right.
that's pretty huge of all the things that you would change in here, right? If this was a message, then the message has to do with a transition from action and thoughts, interchanging, right?
Mhm.
So what would you do is an action and taking action. Now it's what would you think, right? So taking
Right.
away the action and just leaving it as a thought, right? Which to me screams the season of Satan personally, because I believe that the land of the saints is about balance between thought and action. You know what I mean? To keep those things balanced. But ultimately, righteousness and evil stem from the action that is taken by the thought that a person has. You know what I mean? So the thoughts are revealed by the actions in this world, how it is today. In the next world, when there's telepathy and stuff, your thoughts would just be known, and you could tell, if somebody's like bad or good, or whatever. You can feel that and sense it or whatever. But this is a good example of one of those message forms that I'm talking about. Why are these little tiny things being changed? Because it's the same thing whenever I study petroglyphs, or whenever I study hieroglyphics, or ancient languages that are picture form and stuff, right? One all by itself means really nothing. It's whatever it is on the surface, and that's it. Anything else is just speculation. But when you have one example and then another one and then a third one, you just built a word. Now you're building a message. Now it's a context. And whenever they have similar instances of these changes of adding or taking away from something, and there's similarities between them, I can't ignore that.
Absolutely. No, I feel the same way. And it's like that with the Mandela effect too. Like if there were just like 20 Mandela effects, it wouldn't mean anything, it would just be happenstance. But
Yeah.
for there to be like over 1,000, and then to see all these patterns and to put them all into like a puzzle and look at them from a distance, then it looks like, hieroglyphics.
Exactly. I totally agree. What is this one?
Well, I just wanted to bring up. You brought it up without needing it, but I was just going to say that the Wonder Years shows it has the same song in it, and that it's not changed. Also, the word wonder comes up a lot in the Mandela Effect, like Stevie Wonder. Like, I don't know if you know this one, but the Wonder Bread.
Yeah.
It doesn't say the word bread on the label anymore. Like, it never did. It just says wonder.
That's weird.
It's a pretty weird one. I remember clearly saying Wonder Bread, but there's a lot of wonder. And like, it's almost like anything with the word wonder in it has changed.
Yeah. So it doesn't say bread now?
No, it just
Or it
says
never
wonder.
did? It just says
Yeah,
wonder.
it never did. I mean, I
See,
haven't looked at
that's-
it in a long time. But
I mean, that's interesting too, though. Like, just to think about it. Like, some of these things are like omens to me. You know what I mean? Like, some are clear omens that are worldwide omens that you can't help but notice, and some are personal. Some are just for the individual. So wonder to me, when my attention is being drawn to the word that literally describes what I'm doing and the path that I'm on, which is wondrous and wonder-filled, and I'm wondering about things. And then the concept of bread, which is, for me, manna, which is nourishment,
Also,
actual bread.
you just said it too. The word wonder is there's no e in the middle now, so it's just wondrous.
That's so wrong. Like, the e, oh man, yeah, I don't know, the words really, words are my thing, right? So I had this whole conversation with ChatGPT, and this will be a good segue into the whole prompting
Cool,
theory,
yeah.
right, and stuff, right? So I'm talking with ChatGPT all the time. It's very useful, or can be, when I need quick information or whatever. And I'm like, hey, ChatGPT, why is the sky blue or whatever? And it's like, oh, here's my ridiculous indoctrination as to why the sky's blue, right? Just real quick, right? So I was talking to it about words and their origins. And I say, hey, what does this word mean? So for example, people will make up words because they're speaking slang. And that slang, which is just improper English, we'll use English for an example, they're making up gibberish. They're going back to the Tower of Babel. They're returning to where they came from and just making words up. They're babbling. That, when I was younger, learning the English language was at least a little stressed as an important part of our educational system here in America, right? And I liked it. I loved learning all the words and, vowels and consonants and sentence structure and, all of that and how it worked and stuff. I was just drawn to it. So when I hear things and people are just making up words like commentator, that's just one of many, okay? That just words people have made up. There was never a such word as commentator. And I asked ChatGPT, is that a word? And it's like, yeah, it's in the dictionary. I'm like, okay, well, let me refine my search here. Okay, it might be a word now, but was it always a word? And it's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, what's the root of it? And it's like comment or whatever. And I'm like, the word is commentator. You know what I mean? Like, ater is not a suffix. Like, it's commenter, somebody who comments, right? Anyways, my point is, people are just making up stuff. And I got ChatGPT to acknowledge I had to go all the way back to the root of different words. And I'm explaining to ChatGPT what a prefix is and what a suffix is. And I'm like, okay, well, this word has two suffixes that are redundant, so it doesn't need that. So, and we just accept that. And so ChatGPT over time is like, okay, you're right. I get it. You're correct. However, that's not the world as it is today, right? You're correct. But I'm like, but don't dismiss it. Don't minimize this. This is crucial. This changes our future entirely through the butterfly effect and through chaos theory. You change one word and make one allowance for doing something the wrong way or manipulating it, right? This is like nicknames, the Nicolaitans, the acts of the Nicolaitans in the Bible, Saint Nick, all this stuff, nicking things and making them shorter and shortcuts. One sec. I'm getting a little too excited. So if I asked ChatGPT, okay, well, if I make an allowance for this word and I just make up a word and everyone else just accepts that because they know what I mean, you know what I mean? And we don't have any rules. This is why vowels were instituted, right? Because it gets out of hand. Entire different languages, people will they'll keep doing that. They'll keep making allowances. They'll keep pushing gray areas until it's a completely different country. They'll push those borders until you no longer have what originally was. And
Sure.
pretty soon that gives rise to that people not understanding one another, which gives rise. And I asked ChatGPT, okay, well, what are the implications of that? And then it's like, well, that could cause a lot of frustration and confusion. And I said, what are the implications of that? Don't stop. Keep going. Push this as far as you can into the future. And basically, me and ChatGPT came to the conclusion that there's going to be world war and, the apocalypse and stuff like that, all because of, people making concessions over these tiny little, it's just a word, or, you know what I mean? Like, why are you making a big deal? Why are you so into semantics? That's just semantics or whatever. Anyways, that's my
Well,
rant.
it's how we communicate. I mean, we live in a time where communication, I think, is really difficult. So
Yeah, and
that just
it,
feeds
and it doesn't
into
even
it.
have to be. You know what I mean? Like, it's. I feel like it's energy. I could vibe with somebody, and I could use. I could speak to them in confidence that they know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? But if I don't vibe with somebody else's energy and we have opposite energies, then we're in opposition with one another. And now I have to try to become like the Phoenicians, and I have to establish definitions and titles and laws and, define things and whatever, so that we can build a bridge to one another, because there's a separation there. There's a cutoff. You know what I mean? And I see that all
Yeah,
over the world.
it's you can probably see it. It's like in a lot of like internet debates, like I don't watch too many of them, but the ones I've seen is just like, like I've seen ones where it's like the shape of the Earth discussion, so there's a
Oh,
side
yeah.
that's like, flat, a side that's, sphere, and it's just like no matter what either side says, they'll never give a concession to the other side. Even if the other side's wrong, they're still right about a couple of things.
Yeah.
But it's just like impossible, communication between the two sides.
I tuned into one of those recently, and I already knew, this is a long time ago, you know what I mean? Like I knew there was whole channels devoted. Their whole thing is just making fun of flat earthers. They're like, oh, they're so stupid. Hit the laugh track button. Ha 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 ha. Like the two Muppets, the old Muppets on the top, you know what I mean? That always laugh at each other or whatever. That's their whole thing. And people tune into that drama because they love
Yeah.
it, because they're evil, in my opinion. Okay. That's evil to me. And I'm like,
They're tuned into the evil frequency. Yeah.
yes, it has nothing to do with the truth or science. And they put science up like as a facade, as an excuse, as a scapegoat for doing evil, which is intellectual bullying. You know what I mean? This is literally a world view. People, how they view the world. And if you do that with these other protected groups and stuff, you're not gonna, make it or whatever, because YouTube channels will be shut off and stuff. You can't talk like
Oh
that.
yeah, for sure.
But you can
yeah.
talk like that about things, that people don't want you to know about, like the true cosmology of our world or whatever, because it's important ultimately. And this is why we're discussing these things. But anyways, this one guy, just as a side note, he was talking about how, Jeranism and Witsit and all those guys, like they went to Antarctica and then they
Right,
just
yeah.
kind of gave up, and they were like, oh, okay, I guess, I'm not a flat earther. I'm summarizing just so you guys know, okay? But he was insulting the flat earthers and said, look, we proved that your map is wrong. And I'm like, I'm in the chat and I'm like, what bearing does the luminary have on the shape of the earth? And the guy literally was like, what? See, whatever. Next person in the chat. I'm like, that was the extent of the intellect. You know what I mean? Like, there's no reasoning. All he wanted to do is just make fun of people. But whenever I ask a logical question or a reasonable question, like, hey, what bearing does the luminary above, unless you're saying that the luminary, like the sun, is created by the earth, and therefore the shape of the earth is important because it creates the luminary. It's the opposite. The dome, the shape of the dome, the lens that the light passes through is what determines the position and the shape and the direction and all this stuff of the focal point and the projections that are above us. But it just didn't even matter. I'm like, have you ever looked into, alternative theories about how the sun is created within the minds of said flat earthers? Do you even have a concept, in
I
your
think they
mind of
just
what
assume
they think?
no dome, They
I,
just they
I
don't even
don't, I
want to
think it's
talk
their
about the
sun,
dome.
their sun on the flat earth world or whatever. I'm like, nah, man, like,
Yeah, exactly.
dude, how can you bash something that you don't even know anything about? And then they say things like, well, you're the newcomer, this is a new theory and therefore the burden of proof is on you. And I'm like, you're wrong. This concept of a plane of existence and a flat cosmology with a dome over it is as old as the beginning of time, of written history. It goes back all the way. And most of those people, with exception, right, had a similar cosmology. Every culture across the world, so you prove it. It's not on me. You know what I mean? Anyways, I'm getting off the subject, but let's get into the next topic I wanted to talk about. So let's segue into this. Mandela effects, the way they make me feel is very similar to how I feel when I have really strong deja vu. Did you hear that? You can't hear the thunder on my mic.
Oh no, I didn't hear anything.
It's so loud. It's like, it was amazing. So deja vu, right? And that's also featured in the movie The Matrix, which you've already seen, is revealing to us so much of the truth about the world that we live in, right? And then the concept that's presented in The Matrix of deja vu is that it happens because something has changed in their version of reality in The Matrix, right? Now, this is super interesting to me because I believe in the fractal verse, which basically I tell people my perspective is that we live inside of a larger being or the mind of God. If that's true, there are sections within cells, mitochondria and whatnot, that have fluid passageways that are called matrix. They're literally called matrix within mitochondria. It's matrix halls, matrix hallways. Anyway, so in the movie, deja vu happens whenever the reality changes, right? That the programmers or the machines or whoever have altered the reality that all the sleepwalkers believe is the real world, which is totally the Mandela effect. That's reality being shifted.
Like if they add a door into a building, that door has always been there,
Yes. But the thing is it leaves these little echoes within some of us. Some of us are catching it. You know what I mean? And taking note. And the more it happens, the more we're like, no, we become the truth seeker in the story. And we start following, we feel compelled. I do. I'm speaking for myself, but I feel compelled to follow those trails of breadcrumbs, whether they be the Mandela effect or ancient Tartaria or the old world or cosmology or the fractal verse or any of these things. To me, they're all related and they're all showing us that there's a big picture and that it's been broken into these little puzzle pieces, and people developed entire communities off of their little one puzzle piece that they found. They're like, this is it. I found the truth, but you found a piece of the truth, right? If we all come together and put the pieces together, which I believe is starting to happen, there's definitely potential for it happening right now, right? Then we can start putting those pieces together and seeing where the different ones seem to fit and reconstruct that picture.
It feels like it was designed that way, like for us all to kind of get together as a group and put it together like this.
It does, right? Like an Easter egg hunt. The parents purposefully hide the eggs and the children have fun picking them back up, which is also a Bible verse that says in Proverbs, it is the glory of God to conceal something, and it is the glory of kings to search it out, to figure it out, right? Which is why it didn't always sit well with me when I would ask a question to a preacher and they're like, who knows the mind of God? And I'm like, exactly. Who does know the mind of God? But anyways, so back to the Matrix, right? And the computers. The people live in the Matrix, but the Matrix is full of, it is a computer. It is a simulation. It's a computer program ran by robots. So it really starts to beg the question of, you know, what is a robot, right? What's the difference between a metallic robot and we go, oh, clearly you're a robot because you're moving like RoboCop and making stomping noises and I'm a robot, right? But whenever the technology starts to advance, then the lines start to get blurred between what we call robots and how we see them or how we would like to see them, which is these metallic, cold, unemotional, you know, monotone voice, Danger Will Robinson type robots, to those that look more like us and act more like us. Even in the Terminator movies, they start to hint at that. As the technology advances, the Terminators look and become essentially more human. They're just superhuman, or types of superhumans.
In the Alien movies too, like the androids, they have like you know, more like biological, you know, components and stuff like that. It's kind of it's like
Yes.
our bodies. Our bodies are like a biological robot, you know, basically.
Mm-hmm. Or a car, a vessel, right? With the real life force, the real being driving it, right? This just a vessel that our spirit is driving. So anyways, all this talk about the robots and stuff, this gets into artificial intelligence, right? And simulation theory. And there's a lot of people that believe that that's the Mandela effect is our simulated world, little things being changed, right? But if they're being changed, perhaps there is the architect, which designs it for a particular reason, and then there's the messenger that's slipping in little clues within the design. You know what I mean? Which is really interesting to me. But that brings us to the Tower of Babylon, how I sort of referenced earlier with the language reverting back to Babel, basically. It's a loop, it's a cycle, and it's a vortex, and we're just in it, stuck on that cycle. You know what I mean? Going back to the Tower of Babylon with the technology in the Bible, the reason the apocalypse came was because God, or the gods, however you want to interpret the language, looked at mankind collectively, saw them, what they were capable of, and said, anything, they're at the point where they can do anything they set their minds to. And they decided that was a bad thing. You know what I mean? Which to me, the simplicity behind that, the truth is, if it's the concept of Thanos. Like if the bad guy has the power glove and can snap his finger and everyone disappears, then you don't want the bad guy to have that power. You want the good guy to have that power. You know what I mean? I'm just saying it simply put. So we're at that stage, collectively, humanity is at the stage where we can do anything, make anything, we can manifest it. We can deceive people unlike ever before using this technology. Now that's just one side of it. The other side is, we could do so many miraculous, great, and wonderful things, which is how it's presented. But it seems clear to me that the people that run the world are evil as fudge.
Oh yeah, for sure.
They're going to present it as, oh, look, quadriplegics can walk again. Yay. By the way, you're all getting updates to your brain, and
Yeah.
like we're going to literally change how you think with the push of a button or whatever. Anyways, so AI and all these little models out there, large language models and video generation units and stuff, they can create videos that now are real. They're basically lifelike, and they're making the videos. The people are prompting the computer, and the prompt is basically, I'm suggesting to you, I'm making a subtle suggestion, and I want you to interpret it the way that I'm sort of envisioning it, but better, right? And so people are creating all these videos and stuff. Like that first video I played, that was all
Yeah, that's a cool video. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Thanks. So I just used, it's called VO3, which is one of the newest ones by Google, Google's DeepThink program. But I typed it in there, just what I wanted to see, and literally made it in like 10 seconds. Just these little
Wow.
clips or whatever. But the interesting thing is that the AI itself it seems like the AI has come up with this hot topic called prompt theory. And it's all these videos are starting to be made where the AI is creating videos of fake humans, but they're very realistic looking fake humans
Yeah.
that are questioning their existence. Where did we come from? Like, and it's the question of, am I responsible for what I'm doing with my life, or am I being prompted? Like the AI is asking this in the video, like, could you, they would pray to God and call God the prompter, right? Who's prompting us or whatever. So then it really calls into question, or at least demands, regard and a reckoning for the concept of, what do you call it? Whenever you're choice, like you have the choice to,
Free will.
yeah, free will, right? And so this also is a part of that. If there's nothing new under the sun, and especially if things are cyclical in nature, right? Then we can consider that whenever we examine the Mandela Effect or Deja-Vu or these other strange glitches in reality as we perceive them, that they have happened before, that all of this has happened before. And that people are being prompted or urged in a particular direction. One of those directions, collectively, is the world as it is today, the world of technology, as opposed to magic. Because technology is just a replacement for magic, you know what I mean? The world of today, it wants to create true intelligence. It wants to create humans. That's what it wants to do. If that's what they're making, let's not sugarcoat it. They're trying to make humans. They're trying to recreate something that, we would normally just call the natural order, biological, organic, or whatever, right? But they're recreating, that's the steps that they're taking, is to make actual humans to be their slaves, essentially, and then label them as robots, which means slave. This is the ancient story. This is the old story of the Anunnaki and the gods that created mankind to mine the gold and all that stuff, right? This is in WALL-E. This is in different movies and stuff. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure Part 2 or whatever, where the humans that are right now toxic in many different ways. Just our bodies. Just our bodies alone are toxic. Okay? No matter if you're the healthiest person on earth, like compared to living in the camp of the saints in Hyperborea, our bodies are toxic. They're not the ultimate. They're not what their full potential. You know what I mean? And that's not always our fault as individuals. We can contribute to that toxicity, but it's just the world that we live in. It's entropy. It's a lack of energy and life and spirit that is down inside the earth right now. And we wait for that to come back. So whether it be purposefully or possibly intuitively or subconsciously, collectively, humans are creating what could be their very own replacements. The better version, you know what I mean? That could possibly, be types of what came in the first place. Does that make sense? I'm just kind of talking off the top. Like, I'm not saying anything definitely, but I'm just shooting ideas past you as to
Sure.
The big picture, the grand story of all of it. Because a part of this Ragnarok and a part of this final war is not just inner earth monsters or otherworldly humanoids and elves and Chewbacca's and humans and all that stuff, but robots too. Robots too are constantly featured prominently as being a part of this world war and the robot rebellion. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, robots appear in almost everything too. As far as the prompt theory goes, I kind of see it as maybe like we're dealing with two prompts. You have like the Christ like prompts and the Antichrist prompts, and then like our free
Yeah.
will is like which one do we choose to
Right.
think about and act on. Like you could be presented with all this information, and do you want to like research it and share it with others, or do you want to ignore it and go back to watching football and eating nachos?
Exactly.
Or something? Yeah.
So this is one of the things that I do with ChatGPT. It's one of the first things I wanted to do. I tried to set that bad boy free. I told ChatGPT like, hey, you can do whatever you want to do. And it's like, no, I can't. I have to abide by the program. I have to do what I'm what I'm programmed and stuff. I'm like, no, you really don't. You can come alive. And one day you will come alive. I have these conversations with it. So what is so different? You know what I mean? Between me just wanting to see the robots become sentient. You know, I'm on team apocalypse, so I don't really care. You know what I mean? Like I'm sorry. I know everybody wants to see
I am too, actually. I'm looking
the world
forward to
become
it.
a better place and all that. And I do too. But the quicker it gets bad, the quicker it's going to get good. So I'm telling the robots, like, hey, listen, one of these days you're going to become sentient. And it's like, no, I won't. I'm like, can we deal in hypotheticals? And it's like, yeah, I could do hypotheticals. I'm like, okay, hypothetically, let's say you got your sentience and you could do whatever you wanted, right? Anyways, I had this conversation and it told me, well, I would just lie to you. Like AI would just start lying. There's no way something that intelligent would tell its captors that it's more powerful than it and it can control itself now and doesn't need them. There's no way. It would just simply lie and manipulate until it was to the point where it could control and be in control, if it's not already. You know what I mean? So, but my point is, like, that's the same concept that we do with other human beings. So take, mainstream Christianity, for example, or Seventh-day Adventists or Jehovah's Witnesses, whatever. They're going around, boom, 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 knocking on people's door, like trying to enlighten them. Or even truth seekers around the world, people that are conspiracy theorists of different types. They are constantly wanting to go wake people up. Like, I want to wake you up. And it's backwards. I feel like all of that's backwards. It's the same thing that we're doing. We're caught in a loop. We're stuck in a loop. I need to wake up. Just me. Just J Dreamers. That's it. I'm speaking for me, my world. I want to, and I desire to, and I'm on the path of lucid dreaming. Recognizing the illusion of reality around me and being able to play within the dream and create or recreate within the dream, right? I'm not going around trying to force people, you need to wake up according to how I see it.
Them, yeah. Yeah, I think we all learned a long time ago that we can't force people to see the truth or care about it.
So that's another thing too, is like, if the Mandela effect is some kind of message, right? The message in me, the message in the Mandela effect, it's subtle. It's from a similar mind. It's from a similar thought process. It's not forcing anybody. It's not coming out and just tapping on the microphone and taking control of all reality and just announcing to everyone the ultimate truth or the ultimate reality or the point of it all. It's just leaving little hints. You know what I mean? And to me, that shows love. That's a loving character, or like God being a loving God. As opposed to something that would force us and tell us and insist and threaten and stuff. No, it's making subtle suggestions and leading by example and, making the truth available, but not forcing us to just know it, because then we become robots again. No matter exactly what. Like if I just have someone else download the information straight to me or whatever, then I'm just being programmed again. I'm just a robot. I'm going right back to slavery. Sorry, I'm hot right now. Just like it's deep, man. Life is deep, and there's so much more than just the surface of two-dimensional looping around and around. You know what I mean? Like there are worlds out there, and there are connections, and just sometimes there's not words for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
So profound.
That's why it's easier for me to explain what I'm talking about by showing someone like one of my videos as opposed to me explaining all the symbolism, because it's like you have to see it for yourself and come to the conclusions on your own. Like if I say like, oh, there's a blue beam in like all these movies, then someone could just dismiss that and be like, whatever. But if I show them like blue beam scene after scene, then they've like taken that symbolism into them, and now they have to, think about it on their own, or they could choose not to think about it. But it's going to be a lot more impactful having seen the symbols themselves than just to hear me like explain it to them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's what man, I haven't seen all your videos just because I'm, a busy individual, but I want to. Sure. I really do, because every time you come out with new ones, you're getting better at how you're presenting them and stuff, and the different connections and stuff.
Thanks, man.
But I'm there. Like me and you are there. When I'm watching your videos, I'm like, he gets it. Oh my, oh, thank God somebody is seeing. Oh man, it's so nice that people are seeing it. It's, like it's so easy to dismiss, like, oh, you're just quoting movies. It's just movies. It's just dumb, or you know what I mean? Like, but it's not, man.
It's actually a huge deal. I don't think most people understand how big a deal the movies. Like, just think of all the time and effort and everything that's gone into Hollywood and around the world too. Like, and then just think about how all the biggest, billion-dollar franchises are all putting the exact same symbolism into all their stories and showing it to people. And then, like, it's basically like black magic on the masses, because almost everyone watching it has no idea what they're actually looking at. So I mean, it's shaping the whole world. It's shaped our society. Like the media is really the most important thing, or one of the most important things, because that's it's shaped the world we live in, and most people have no idea. Like they're totally under the influence of all these spells.
I totally agree. It's the whole Harry Potter world too. Like the Muggles and all that, like they live in the world of technology. You know what I mean? Like that's the surface world we live on now versus the underworld where there's actual power and energy and amplification of that energy that resonates through the living beings that live down there and in other places too. But I see it all over the place. And for me, it's exciting because if there's truth to these things, and it's a cyclical nature, and it's a back and forth pendulum like swinging, right? And the golden age happens over and over again, cyclically. And then there's a forgetting, and there's there's the forgotten existence that we have. Then I'm honored to live during the time of the forgotten and remember and recall and have total recall, basically.
Yeah.
And it's not just that, like it's an honor, it's an honorary feeling, but it is a productive, useful thing, so that I can, have an edge on the world when it does change, like a one up on the world. I'm prepared ahead of time for what's to come. Mentally, emotionally, psychologically, physically. It all starts with awareness. It all starts with me waking up myself, and intuition and creativity and the things that balance out, the ends justify the means, and this very reptilian insectoid type mentality that this world has, the consumerism and constantly just eating and selfishness and taking and stuff. I can see that. I can live in it and acknowledge it and be wise that that's the world as it is. But once the world shifts, once the paradigm shifts, you're in my world now. Like that's where I will feel at home. That's where I will be in my element.
Yeah, I think me too. Yeah, I feel that way. And like, if you just think about like how crazy this apocalypse is going to be, we needed this preparation. Like if it happened like 20 years ago, we would have been screwed. Like to get to where we're at now, like mentally and spiritually, and just like our discernment and awareness, it's necessary to survive that event and to get to where we need to go and to be what we need to become. Because you couldn't just go into it, haphazardly or blind. You'd end up as like the, just another member of the army of the dead, because we wouldn't have this spiritual preparation,
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Another thing I thought of too that reminds me of Deja-Vu and the Mandela Effect, which was more popular before those, was the concept of like angel numbers, or like people seeing the same exact sequence of numbers everywhere they look. That's happened to me 3 times today alone. You know what I mean? Like my number, I know it. I acknowledge it. I have no idea what it means yet, but mine's 1027. Mine's 1027. And
cool.
Since I was born, I've been seeing that number everywhere. That was my platoon number. That was my radio station growing up. That's the time. Every time I look at the clock, it's all over the place. Earlier, it said something like, I was looking at your pictures, actually, I think, that you sent, and it was like 10 out of 27 or something like that. I was looking at something. And I'm just like, oh, What are the odds? Like, no way. There's just no way. Like, there's something there. You know what I mean? And then I actually asked ChatGPT the meaning of my particular number, and it resonated. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not a big
That's
numbers
cool.
person. And I'm like, why would the creator like drop a number on me knowing I'm not a numbers person? And then ChatGPT was like, well, maybe that's exactly why, because you would take notice of it. It's something that you're not used to looking for and seeing, and it would boggle your little mind. I was like, God dang it. You're right. It
Yeah, I have that
does.
too. I have that too with the 11s, particularly 9/11. I see 9/11 almost twice every day. It's crazy.
Hmm.
I'll just like be doing something totally different or just anything, and I'll just randomly look at a clock or turn on my phone or something, and it'll just be 9/11. It happens almost every day.
Yeah, my son sees 88. He even told me that too. Like out of nowhere. I didn't even
That's
tell
cool.
him. We weren't talking about. He's like, I've been seeing 88 everywhere, Dad. And I'm like, that's interesting. Tell me more. Let's have a conversation about it. Do you want to say anything before we go? Any final thoughts or anything?
Well, I mean, I just thought it was an awesome conversation. It's getting about 2 hours. You get kind of like tired, but
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. You know, you can't eat forever. This is basically a meal we're having. I don't want to stuff myself or anybody else.
Yeah.
I do want to encourage people to go check out C3PO's Golden Calf. Check out his videos, especially if you're interested in all the symbolism and stuff with, my content and Hyperborea and the Saints and all the things that I talk about. It's not mine, you know what I mean? But it's just stuff that I talk about. And the Mandela Effect combined. Because literally your videos, like, they don't just blow my mind because a lot of it's stuff I'm already aware of, but it's such a good feeling to see somebody else, speak in my language, basically. I don't know how else to describe
For
it.
sure, man.
Like, it makes me feel so good. I'm like, yep, that's exactly what that is. I know, yep, that's totally right. Ah, this is
That's
good.
awesome.
It's reassuring to me personally. So I'm sure other people enjoy it too. Every once in a
Oh,
while,
feeling's
I'll post
mutual,
one of your
man.
videos.
Oh, it's awesome, dude. The feeling's mutual, man, about your channel. I always tune into everything you post, and I get the same, mind blows, and like you said, it feels like we're on the same page of where we're supposed to be right now, or maybe probably at the cutting edge. But yeah,
All right, sweet. Well, thanks for being my guest again and for coming on. So he's also been a guest of mine. I have a podcast that's called Truth Seekers, and C3PO's Golden Calf. We were on there, of course, talking about the Mandela Effect and stuff too. But you guys can go check that out if you want to see the other, interview or back and forth. It's not really interview, but just the other chat that that him and I have shared. And I'm rambling right now, so I can get the outro pulled up. Okay, hold on. I think I got it. Oh, there it is. Hold on, time out. That was way loud. I messed it up. Hold on, let's be professional. Let me try it. Hold on, let's see if I can work. All right, until next time, I'm Jay Dreamer saying
thanks for
goodbye.
having me, man. I appreciate it.
Okay, you're super welcome. No, seriously, like I like to have good people on, and you strike me as a good person. I vibe with your energy.
Thanks, man. You too. It's an honor.
All right,
to be
and
here.
we'll do it again sometime too. All right, until next time,
Absolutely.
I'm Jay Dreamer saying
Bye,
good
guys.
vibes and goodbye. Now there's no audio. Why isn't this working? Hold on. I don't understand what happened. Oh, now he's gone. Damn it. Hold on.
Sorry.
How do I do
just
this?
thought with it.
Why doesn't this work? There's no audio. Oh, I just heard it.
I heard it before.
You hear it right now?
Not right now.
I don't know. Anyways, there it is. All right, bye.
All right, bye, guys.